sorry, Ben Unger, not Tim Hatch. Just felled Tim Hatch.
That's
We'll
right.
talk about that. Got my words confused. Ben Unger just beat Tim Hatch in the Teamer Delver mirror. We got Ben Unger on Teamer Delver on your right. And then, of course, Cliff Boyardee, team 9th place, did not get 9th place. And in fact, right now, they're in either 1st or 2nd place on Cephalid Breakfast. Cliff, of course, got the name, got quite a few 9th place finishes, some heartbreakers last year on the NRG series. Doing better already here in weekend 1 in the finals of this team trial with his take on Cephalid Breakfast. Get the trophy out the way. It started there. Gonna get. We just moved trophy number 1. We got more trophies.
You see, it went out of the top of the screen and came back in the bottom of the screen. That's all the space we got.
Yeah, we just have infinite trophies. Of course, 3 trophies. We got 3 players. There's going to be 3 champions that, of course, we'll get to speak to after the match is all said and done. But for the moment, it is our 7 seed versus our 8 seed, the quite literal bottom of our top 8 bracket, find each other facing off the finals. Somehow, number 7 going to get to be on the play in the finals. Not that common.
Well, I'll tell you, I may have come into this event preferring Modern as the format I play the most of, but the Legacy we've watched today has been extremely engaging, back and forth, swingy, interesting, everything you could ask for. Modern, there's been a lot of breach, as you'll see in the finals over there in the hands of Fletcher Johnson. The deck's very good right now, and look, we'll take some of that if we can, but we wanted to take the opportunity to show off Legacy while we can, especially these 2 players who have just been crushing it, Breakfast versus Delver here in the finals. It's been a blast to watch the updates to Legacy. A lot of it, one you may not be as familiar with if you haven't watched Legacy in a while is the Questing Druid / Sheik the Beast you spot over there in Ben's hand, but we've seen it come up clutch several times, representing essentially 3 cards in these Delver decks.
Absolutely. I mean, not as recent is Dragon's Rage Channeler, but certainly one of the more powerful turn 1 plays that is kind of recently developed, and that's the turn 1 Dragon's Rage Channeler into the Mishra's Bauble. Of course, also had a fetch land to pair with that, so Delirium already halfway there on turn number 1. Yeah, we're going to take care of that very quickly as Cliff Boyardee. We're quickly slamming a 2nd land and a Prismatic Ending. So to exile goes that Dragon's Rage Channeler. Now, like you mentioned, cards like the Questing Beast and the Questing Druid, not Questing Beast, Questing Druid, and the Delver of Secrets that we picked up are going to be some threats we're going to have to lean on, as some removal spells is the name of the game. We've seen this kind of sequence before.
Yeah, the Cephalid Breakfast deck that Cliff is playing really scares people with its combo potential, right? It's got Nadu, it's got Shuko, it's got Cephalids, it's got Nomads, it's got all these combo pieces that just in the game on the spot. At the same time, it seems like it's just been removal spell after removal spell with the white mana that Cliff has produced throughout the day, which is, I think, a really interesting twist on the deck, right? This is not just the I'm trying to combo you on turn 2 game plan, although that is there. That has not been what has led to a lot of Cliff's wins.
Right, and that's exactly part of the strength of this deck. We talked about it a little bit earlier in the broadcast about how just having mopey creatures as your combo pieces leads to where, well, you can just attack with them at the end of the day, and that's a big part of the Cephalid Breakfast plan, especially when you have some equipment, things like Shuko, and we saw, somebody like Jesse Hefner, they had even more equipment to work with. Not as much of that going on in Cliff Boyardee's list, just a couple Shukos as far as the equipment suite, and Lightning Bolt away, the Nomads in core, and beatdowns with a 1/1 did not flip. Wasteland's got targets. See if we're interested in activating that now.
Oh, looks like, thank you, chat. We'll get the graphic updated here. That is, of course, for the 3 players. Thank you for letting us know. Always appreciate everybody hanging out in NRG chat on Twitch with us. It's been fun hanging out with all of you throughout the day, watching every format, really, but especially enjoying some Legacy on a Sunday evening, right? It doesn't get a lot better than this if you're a Magic fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't get as much of it anymore as you used to, especially with the Legacy format. So we're really happy to bring that. At least I'm very happy to bring that to all of you at home. And I don't know if you're appreciative or not. Let Corbin know. He's the Lorax. He speaks for the chat. And I do not watch the Twitch chat. We have people for that. I got people for that.
Well, we've all got eyes on this Delver here because it's the only thing going on in this game right now. 4 lands versus 3 lands. We're not even going to use the Wasteland.
And that's interesting. I don't know what that's about. Okay. No Wasteland. Does flip the Delver on the Ponder. That's a good flip. I think that has to be a lot of respect for Urza's Saga, is the holding of this Wasteland, saying, all right, like, I think Cliff has a lot of lands. I'm not really worried about any of these lands. Whatever, cast your spells, I don't care. But if you play an Urza Saga, that's something I'm quite worried about and want to have a Wasteland in order to take that off the battlefield right away. Apparently, we need names updated here. Still on the graphic. I don't know what's incorrect about the names, but my understanding is these are the correct names. Am I
We'll
incorrect?
figure it out. Ben doing.
Oh, we have the correct names. Apparently, chat does not have the correct names. That's tough. Well, thankfully, we have people for that too. So we're going to sit here and watch the game, and hopefully, chat will find a way to make do, and understand that the players we are watching are Cliff Birdie and Ben Unger here, as Ben Unger is resolving a ponder. Thankfully, not too many sparks flying as we get this updated, fixing all of the problems that's ruining chat's experience.
I think Donnie White. Well, Chad wants us to check on the third seed, right? The standard seed on this team.
Okay, is that the incorrect one? Let's see who's that supposed to be. Travis Williams is the standard player.
So we'll get that updated.
I was looking at the match we're watching.
Yeah, we do hope to catch some of that standard game. So thank you for whoever had the eagle eye there to catch that for us. Looking back in on this one, though, not a lot has happened since we last left. The Ponder resolved, the Delver transformed, and it's 15-19 as both players with plenty of mana and plenty of spells.
Yeah, we've seen this kind of posturing before, right? Like, no real need to deploy too much else. Just kind of develop the mana. Don't even really need to pull the trigger on the Questing Druid Seek the Beast stuff quite yet, because you don't really know that you want to be casting additional spells. I mean, you kind of find to be in this holding pattern, attacking with a Delver. It's really where Delver wants to be. The only weirdness is not activating this Wasteland, which, like I said, I think is just a massive nod to the power of Urza's Saga, and especially in this deck where it can not only make constructs, but find combo pieces as well. As here's a very powerful Brainstorm. Got to fetch land already in play for that one. Urza Saga found. I wonder if we're going to prioritize putting that in play, or if we're going to just get rid of that with the Wasteland in play. I mean, you kind of have to work through the Wasteland eventually. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, Ben needs mana, maybe not as much as Cliff, but both players want to use mana. So, I mean, wastelanding someone else is kind of like wastelanding yourself. So maybe it's not the end of the world if you're Cliff. You just run your Urza Saga out there, take the bullet, and move on with your game plan.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. We're putting a lot of thought into this. We've changed our two cards back a few times now. A lot of lands in Cliff's hand. Looks like we're really thinking about putting two lands back more or less no matter what. It's just a question of what are we keeping as far as the one land we don't want to put back.
Yeah, looking over at Ben's hand, I spotted at least a Force of Will. So he probably feels for two Force of Wills, as a matter of fact, and a Seek the Beast / Questing Druid open. So Wasteland on Saga, as everyone expected.
Didn't even let it get a first counter. You don't even get mana off that. I think that's an interaction that's actually, I mean, that's what matters, right? That's one mana that Cliff potentially have for this turn. Yeah.
Yeah, explain that for Chad, for anyone who might not understand what just happened there.
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, obviously the Saga puts a trigger on the stack. So it doesn't do anything when it enters. It has to enter and get a counter as it's resolving its first chapter ability. And so it does not make mana yet until it has that first ability. So in response to that trigger, you can wasteland it. And that's exactly what happened there. Is here is a Seek the Beast putting our Questing Druid on an adventure.
Yeah, Seek the Beast has been just so good for these Delver players throughout the day. The instant speed obviously being clutch.
Another threat. Bolt to add some extra time off the clock as Cliff's life total currently divisible by 3.
Yeah, and everything once you transform the Delvers, everything in the Delver deck does things in about multiples of 3, if I think about it. So that's not an ideal life total here. Dragon Rage Channeler on the stack.
Yeah, in many ways represents a sort of time walk in a sense with just Delver of Secrets, right? It's an extra turn that you have off the clock by just lightning bolting. Well, with Dragon's Rage Channeler, it even gets a little more complicated than that. Yeah, and so we're actually going to force this Dragon's Rage Channeler, really respecting the 2-turn clock potential of Dragon's Rage Channeler plus the Delver of Secrets. In the fight of this, we might not have a lightning bolt.
Yeah, high key best use of Narcomoeba right there, pitching it to Force of Will.
Well, ideally, you want to be sacking it to a Dread return and winning the game. But yeah, I guess if you're forced to draw one, that's one of the better uses. Getting value out of your Narcomoebas when they don't do the thing they're supposed to do is a
I think a high point of a Narcomoeba deck. Like what other ways can you find value for it? You pitching it to Force of Will, that's a pretty good one. Sometimes you use it for fodder for other stuff. Sometimes it trades with creatures. Little Narcomoeba does a lot.
Yeah, we saw a chump block of massive Murktide or whatever it is. It comes
Yeah.
up as here's a much better card than Narcomoeba. Yeah, wasting no time. Got to Force of Will that Teferi Time Raveler. Not playing games with that. Very impactful on this board. And away goes Teferi Time Raveler. No fight from Cliff. Used his Force of Will already on the Dragon's Rage Channeler. Now, quick life total check. This is why you write stuff down, pen and paper. Undefeated method of tracking life. So 7 to 18 looks to be the math. A 3-turn clock still from the Delver.
That's a
Swords
sword.
Plowshares picked up though. Yeah, that's big.
That's a swords and a nomad. So the nomad not exactly doing much for you here. Is this? I guess we're thinking about the swords right now, considering days. I imagine that must be what's happening, and Cliff opts to pass the turn.
Well, are you scared of the questing druid? Is kind of my next question. Like, is there a universe where you don't want to swords the Delver because you would rather swords the questing druid? I don't think so for the most part, because like the Delver's attacking right now. Like you
you just don't have
your life total
with 7 life. You're just not going to have a choice, and I think that's what he considered. I can probably take one more hit from this to play around days, because if you get dazed on your swords here, the game's probably just over, right? So. All right, so another force. That was an island pickup for Ben.
It's got a brainstorm. Could go for that. This is kind of that awkward when brainstorm's your only blue card. Do you cast it, try to find another blue card and like fetch land and all that stuff? Or do you just hold it? We're going to see what Ben Unger decides to do because the island is not a good draw.
Yeah. So interesting. Cliff goes for it here. Actually lets Ben get another card before going for it, but goes for it. The swords. And does Ben want to force this? Big choice.
Yeah, I mean, has the option to if he wants to, but also just has a backup threat. Like maybe you could go questing druid into brainstorm and get that cooking, and that's like more or less the same as having a Delver in play, but you're getting more use out of the rest of your cards. We're gonna look at the graveyard before making this decision. Interesting. Maybe just evaluating what Cliff has been through already. Not a lot of combo pieces, which I think for the most part's good. Your combo pieces aren't that good on their own against the Delver deck, but does mean you need a lot to get started before you're going to look to win with any kind of combo.
That's right.
Really want to go back and highlight just how patient Ben was with the Wasteland. A lot of people just fire those off the first target, just hungry to put land in the graveyard, but really understanding how important Urza Saga is and firing that off right away. I mean, did a lot to limit Cliff's options so far in this game, and now he's fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people sort of view Wasteland as, I mean, not that it's necessarily less relevant now than it was then, but a very old school play my Ether Vial, play Wasteland, Wasteland your land, Wasteland your land. You don't have any lands. And that's not always the best use for Wasteland when you can't do that. Sometimes it's just to have Wasteland as a land until they play a high value land like Urza Saga. So learning that patience that you just called out is, I think, something that separates players who play Legacy and Legacy players.
Right. Yeah. These are things that are easy to miss if you're somewhat new to the format. Is a lot of times you're just like, okay, Wasteland, anything at all. It's good to be restricting mana, especially in a Delver deck, right? Tempo style. But having it used as a utility that makes a lot of sense. And hey, there's another one. Little late to the party's number 2, but might still be able to get some value. Big pickup in the form of a fetch land makes this brainstorm quite a bit more attractive to cast. So Ben will.
I think that was actually a pretty decent draw, though, for Cliff, because any spell was going to run into this Force of Will if it was good enough. Whereas, okay, I mean, whatever this questing druid does to you this turn is not going to feel very good. But I guess at least next turn, you've done something that can get around counter magic. And you can interact with the board, which you desperately need. Now, it's not going to be much, but we'll see here. We'll see if Cliff's able to do anything with this Urza Saga over the next few turns.
Yeah, it might just not have the time. Yeah, I think that's really kind of what it's about. With all these spells we picked up Daze, we picked up Delver, we picked up another questing druid. I mean, that's just a lot of stuff you could just cast and make a massive questing druid.
Yeah, that likely was way too many good cards off of that brainstorm there.
A lot of spells.
Yeah. So if Ben is able to close this, he will join his teammate Harrison Canfor as up a game in their matches. So here in the finals of the $10,000 prize pool team trios event in Chicagoland, the team of Canfer, Conan, and Unger looking pretty good.
Yeah, looking solid. I mean, I'd love to be up a game in 2 different seats. That's a great way to
Yeah.
start things off. Now, not clear that that's what's going to happen. I mean, Brainstorm's a powerful magic card, and if Cliff can find one, and now obviously needs to navigate through like Force Days and all the other spells, but only an attack for 2 is kind of tame. Second
Yeah.
chapter coming for Saga.
Yeah. Ben holding up another Seek of the Beast at the instep there. Also has Days if you wanted to do it just to get a counter on the Druid.
No play. Seek the Beast end step. That's going to grow the questing druid. 2 lands. Okay. Yeah, we knew about those. We didn't fetch after the brainstorm, so that was just to clear the brainstorm. You get to play a land. Oh, Wasteland the draw.
Yeah, Wasteland denies, I guess, 1 activation from the Saga.
And finding a Shuko, right? Which gives you less outs to actually being able to assemble a combo kill out of nowhere. I think it might actually be a really key draw here for Ben, as far as like any kind of plans Cliffs might have to just try to win the game, steal the game away from a combo out of nowhere.
Yeah, very good point.
Which we know really wouldn't happen anyway. We got all the things. We got Force, we got Days, we got all these stuff. It's going to be hard to steal this game in any way. The second questing druid is added to the board state. Wasteland played. Delver deployed. Grows both questing druids.
All the threats keep up Force of Will. Force of Will Days are in hand right now. Wasteland the Saga. So Ben feeling like pretty good. He's got lethal backed up by counter magic.
Yeah, and land and nomads and Korshuko the draw. Yeah, that is not gonna do it. I think that's gonna wrap up game number 1. We'll see. Okay, gonna deploy that. We have a Shuko. We could draw a brainstorm. We know it won't resolve because of Force. We'll see if this Delver flips could end the game right now. Does not. So we play on, but I think this is very difficult for Cliff to win. So we're going to see what happens here.
Well, doesn't have enough to grow it right now. Now just going to sit behind, I guess, the same thing and pass the turn back. 1 more chance for a miracle draw for Cliff. Doesn't look
Did
like
not find it. So that's going to wrap up game number 1. Yeah, like you said, great start there for the team led by Jake Conan. And I believe we can actually hop right over to the standard match, which is in the process of starting. We saw Harrison Canfor last round, his take on that Esper self-bounce deck featuring those very powerful white one-ofs, of which you see in play already. This optimistic scavenger, one of them already picked off. On the other side of the battlefield, I think we see a Heartfire Hero. I struggle with these frames quite a bit. That's actually the Lizard, I think. The Hired Claw. I see it activated ability on that thing.
I think that's true, yes. It looks like it. 4 1-mana spells played so far in this game, by the way.
A lot of really good 1-mana spells. We get a look at Hired Claw, which we actually saw activated in combat there. So as soon as you attack with it, you get to deal damage to your opponent, and then you can activate it, put a counter on it. And of course, only once each turn, only if opponent lost life. And so that's what happens. So it actually gets to attack as a 2/3, which is quite nice.
It can deal 3 damage. Like, it's extremely powerful, obviously, as so many of the cards in this Gruul aggro deck are. Although we'll see. This is the important thing.
Talents in hand.
Well, this is the important thing: is the green source. They're allowing Travis to actually cast it. So that's a big play.
Well, the other land's a Rockface Village, which you could actually just activate and get more damage right now anyway. Well, maybe not.
Well, okay. We've got the Destroy Evil here by Harrison to fight back. That gets rid of the creature. The talent is still in play, but hey, board clear. If you're Esper Bounce, you've got a chance to try to work your way ahead now instead of just defending.
Right, and I think we see a removal spell left over for Canfor, and this is part of the value of this deck, right? You just get an endless stream of removal spells, and that's really the best way to fight through this Gruul aggro deck. I really think Gruul aggro, over the last couple months, really kind of pulled forward. Innkeeper's Talent's really powerful, might be the best card in Standard. There's a lot of these conversations happening, and one of the responses here was, all right, if this aggro deck is that good, you know what we're going to do? We're going to play removal spells over and over and over and over again. And Nowhere to Run has done exactly that. You can just pick it up, remove, pick it up, remove, pick it up, remove. That's what it's been about. We're going to see Go for the Throat. Answer a hero here right now. I believe that's a hero, not an Everheart Challenger. Checking. Yeah, that was a Heartfire Hero. So 1 damage comes across. We're leveling up the Innkeeper's Talents, but still no creatures in play for Travis as we go back to Canfor, kind of in a control role.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Canfor is so close to turning the corner right now, but has a Pixie in hand, I think, and hits that Darkslick Shores off the top. That was the window to pull ahead on the board. and he didn't do it. And unfortunately, that means that now it's really well set up for Travis if he's able to untap and find anything. I'm not sure if that's a creature land on the green red one, not quite able to
No, I
catch
think we
that.
leveled up the Innkeeper's Talent to level 3 is what happened there.
Yeah, but is that the creature link? Can that fire up for Travis next turn and
I don't
start?
see any creature
Okay,
lands. No, that's
so
Carplusian Forest, I believe, is
okay,
the
thank you.
closest land to the
Yeah,
stream.
my eyes, they get not so good in the old
It
age.
happens
But
when we age. This old Magic players, it's tough out here.
but yeah, so you at least don't have to worry about that coming through. But yeah, I mean, if you're Harrison, you have to find something, right? You don't have a lot going on right now, which means as well as you've done keeping the board clear, it can all disappear in an instant.
Yeah, you're just giving this deck so much time as we're leveling up the other Innkeeper's Talent, which, I mean, looks bad. I mean, it is bad, but
Oh
it's not
gosh.
like Harrison's doing anything. He's playing tap Darkslick Shores, and any creature that Travis draws is just going to get instantly supersized.
And here it is,
And
Heartfire
here's
Hero.
one. Yeah, that has to be answered right away. Otherwise, it's going to get huge.
So there's a nowhere
Heartfire
to
Hero.
run. Harrison's picked up. So that's not bad. Nowhere to run plus the Pixie means you actually have a couple things to work through here. And this believe gets around the extra ward cost too as well, right? So there you go.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and pick that off. Ward doesn't trigger, so nowhere to run, kind of invalidating some of what the Innkeeper's Talent's got going on. And we drew a third Innkeeper's Talent. Right. I mean, if the first two aren't good enough, I guess you can play another one. But really, I mean, all Travis wants to do from here is draw a creature every turn for the rest of the game because they're all just going to be massive. You don't need anything else to win. You're going to run out of removal spells that work eventually, and Travis will win if that happens. But right now, that's not happening. And here is a Fear of Isolation that is going to pick up the Nowhere to Run. This is the combo. Now he
Yeah,
has another removal spell dialed up.
the last like 3 turns were the window for both players to do something, and it wasn't great for Harrison until that last draw perhaps, but it was a lot worse for Travis, and he right now is staring down absolutely no action at all. And now Harrison has an attacker. He's got nowhere to run. He's got a Pixie to bounce and nowhere to run. So haste is certainly good here, but it's against nowhere to run, not quite as good as maybe you're going to need it to be. So removal spell for Travis, that'll slow the bleeding down, but still no creatures of his own.
I mean, I think it's quite important. Lithomantic Barrage taking off the Fear of Isolation. I mean, really, that's kind of where this deck can just kind of do. It reminds me of Snapcaster Mage, where you used to just kind of play a control deck that could eventually win with Snapcaster Mage. You get a look at the uncounterable sorcery from the March of the Machine set. Deals 1 damage to a creature plays over. If it's blue or white, you get 5 instead. So that's going to take care of the Fear of Isolation. And that's going to make it to where, I mean, both players taking draw steps when you have 3 Innkeeper's Talents. I mean, that's actually not that bad. If you're Gruul aggro, you're kind of okay with that. Because again, every card's about Sanctuary, and Sentinel to Nameless City is huge. Doesn't die to nowhere to run.
Yeah, literally, it's huge. It's so big that the nowhere to run can't handle it. And that is now okay. You can nowhere to run, Pixie nowhere to run on your main phase. So we can double if you have enough mana.
Well, it's about to get a lot of counters if we try that. So we have to do everything we're going to do now. So here's nowhere to run. That's -2, -2. Do you have a second one? We do have a second one. Okay, 2 will work.
Fair
and
enough.
like I said, you need 2 here. That had to happen.
Yeah, that was a huge play by Harrison. There was not it was not going to be good enough otherwise. But all right, Pixie, pick one up.
Pick one up, get one back. But again, I mean, that Sentinel name is silly. Bringing out 2 is actually the great way to start to come back. Ooh, tough land draw there.
Yeah, just
tough.
Brutal to miss, but that's for both players right now. Okay, that did not look like a miss for Harrison. I didn't catch it. Oh, it was.
No, it's a Dark Shore, so it's nowhere to run in hand. Another Sentinel, the name of City would be a huge draw, but it's just another land for Travis. The top deck war continues.
Brutal.
A lot of time, only 2 at a time goes down Travis's life total. Oh, that's a nice pickup. Optimistic Scavenger, going to be able to turn up the clock with any future draws. Again, just need another one of those Sentinel, the Nameless Cities, or something that doesn't die to
any
the
creature. Any creature to at least draw out something. Okay, there's one.
Yeah, there is.
In fact, it actually Manifold Mouse is going to make a second one.
Right,
so
2 creatures is the money, and that's a big problem for Harrison, who we know has nowhere to run. But that's only 1 removal spell. So 2 creatures is, I mean, as good as the sideboarded in Sentinel and Nameless City. And we're going to go ahead and kill the token, which I believe we were targeting with some number of the abilities.
That might have been hey. All right, here we go. Map, draw a card.
Yeah, map gets another land out of the way. Love to see that. And here's just, oh my god, this is a big number. 6 tokens, is that correct? Okay, we have 3 fold up Innkeeper's Talents. If you would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many instead. So it gets, oh my god. So we have 3 instances of 6 counters, is that correct? Because it goes 1 to 2, 2 to 4. No, sorry, 8. So we have 3 instances of 8 counters, I believe. So we're going to get 24 counters on this with 3 of these because you get 1 counter that gets doubled 3 times. So it gets doubled to 2, doubled to 4, doubled to 8. And you do that 3 times.
Yep.
So yeah, we're just going to put dice on this until we can't see the card anymore.
Yep. Fun fact, multiplication in Magic is in fact multiplicative. And it gets out of control pretty quickly. So it's a big mouse. It's a big mouse.
Yeah, we put all these counters on it, and it looks to be dying to
that's a Gigantamax.
One of Witch's Vanity. Destroy a creature an opponent controls with mana value 2 or less. So a key draw there for Harrison Camphor to answer the massive creature that Travis made last turn. And now, I mean, Camphor knows he's got to lay the beatdowns, but still at a very healthy 14 is Travis.
Yeah, you might very well have thought you were going to lose to that Manifold Mouse putting 2 bodies in play. So the fact that the game is not actually over if you're Camphor, that's a little mini win. You might be able to get a full win here and put your team up a match, I suppose, in the finals. So that's just a massive turn, right? That for this entire game.
Big draw. Huge draw. Whoa! Seek the Beast. 2 more looks. Land no good. Burst Lightning, not actually that bad. Picks off some of the pressure. And of course, the Questing Druid we know is a threat that's going to get just an infinity sign of counters. And I think
yeah, the land.
Harrison seen enough. The land being the creature land, the Soulstone Sanctuary. That's 2 threats. Harrison knows he's not going to win the race. Both threats will be lethal in the following turn. Nothing he can do about that. And 3 Innkeeper's Talents, making it to where Travis can grind out Camphor, and they get a game 3. And with that, while they're shuffling for their game 3, let's get back to Legacy. Check in on how the Breakfast and the Delva's doing. All right. Got Dragon's Rage Channeler. Looks to be either Delirious or close to it. Cliff resolving a Brainstorm has a Saga with 1 counter in play. This game looks to be going a lot better for Cliff Boyardee than the first game we watched of the game number 1.
Almost certainly, because this is a second counter on there is a Saga, has the 3rd land. So you can actually go into the Saga game plan if you'd like. I spotted a Grafdigger's Cage and Unger's Hand there. So your combo plan maybe will work, is maybe not going to work, but at least you have a backup plan if you want it. But instead, wow, look at this. Just has the combo.
Jam. We have double days backup too. So it's not even like we got anything. And looks like Ben's getting ready to pick up the cards.
Yeah,
we got 2 days.
Let's Ben see knows what's up.
Wow.
Well, we talked about how many games we saw today from this Cephalid Breakfast deck that were not just comboing. It's about time we saw a combo hand right there. That was almost the nuts.
Yeah, it looks like this is a concession, and Ben just wants to look at the deck list to see what sideboarding happened. You see him pulling forward the Hydro Blast there, just getting a look at the deck list, seeing how Cliff Boyardee did do some sideboarding for the Delver matchup, and we jump right over just to see a very quick combo kill to game 3 they go. So assuming we don't have shuffling in the Modern seat as well, maybe we check in on that.
Yeah, not sure if we can catch some Modern when we come back.
Oh, no, not a chance. All right, let's go on back to us. And you know what? It's actually a perfect opportunity because as they're shuffling, I want to spend some time talking about shuffling. I want to talk a little bit about how, if you are a fan of shuffling, and certainly a fan of shuffling Magic cards at your desk like I am, I do this during my workday and sometimes even during the show, but don't tell anybody. You're going to want to get some Ultimate Guard sleeves. They're a sponsor for the NRG series. We've been working with them very closely over the last couple of years, and really proud supporter of their products. We carry their products. I use their products. Their stuff is awesome, and you're going to want to check out their sleeves and the nice stuff with katanas. Not bad. Those are some of my favorite sleeves. I use them on my commander decks and all that stuff. And the deck boxes, all the other things that they offer are awesome quality as well. They are a sponsor of the series, so supporting them obviously indirectly supports us, but does support us. And obviously you get a good product for your time, so there's no losing. It's all wins all around. And I know our players down in the feature match are using their Ultimate Guard sleeves to shuffle and play some high stakes Magic, which is the best possible use for Ultimate Guard sleeves. So make sure you check them out. Check out their sleeves, check out all their stuff, and support them. Again, supporting us, big deal.
The finals we're in right now have been incredible thus far, right? We saw some great Legacy, some great Standard. What I'm interested in, and maybe we'll get a chance to check in on it or not, the Breach Dimir Modern match appeared to have gone longer than either of the games in the other two formats. And that's not typically something you associate with a breach deck, especially when that breach deck wins the game. But we've got some very talented players on both sides of the field today.
Yeah.
So maybe not quite as much a surprise to see it happen.
Yeah, and that's part of the power of Breach. I mean, you can spend some time talking about that, and that's part of the power of the deck. We talked about this a little bit yesterday when we saw the deck, really make its deep run, and even in the finals, is in the face of opposition, especially in the post-board games. A lot of times you can cut your losses by just doing a Breach, using your Mishra's Bauble, and just drawing a few cards. That's how we used to see it used 2 or 3 years ago in the modern format, really before the MH3 mess started to happen, is you would have these value breaches. Decks would just cast a bunch of lightning bolts, or they'll just use it as like a draw 5. In the middle of the game, they'll play like 1 or 2. They weren't really dedicated Underworld Breach decks, but the card Underworld Breach is so strong that it was just worth playing as a value engine in these random Izzet decks all over the place. And that kind of fell out of favor. We started to see the grinding station builds championed by Jesse Robkin primarily on our series. And now is kind of back into favor with the addition of Mox Opal. And that has really set the deck off. And now you still have the option to do all that we just talked about. You can still do those big draws and then grind out your opponent instead of just leading into the combo in the face of a lot of combo hate.
Yeah, I know a lot of players, because keep in mind the regional championships going on right now, a lot of Modern is happening. And there's some cool decks floating around, right? There's a black-white Blink deck that's kind of come back and gotten better and surprised people. But realistically, over the last week, it's been a lot of Breach that the best players are on, if that makes sense, right? I don't even know if it would be the most popular deck in a field when the regional championships come up, but it is what I see the best players championing right now. And things are said like, when you have the opportunity to play a broken card, you play it. That seems to be the consensus among the best Magic players I know about the Breach deck. So you know what? Let's take a look at it. Let's hop in to Modern here. Fletcher Johnson, a master on this series, up a game with Teamer Breach. Jake Conan, captain of the team that has made it all the way to the finals, playing Dimir Murktide.
And I spent some time talking to obviously some of the Modern players yesterday. A lot of them really low on this Murktide deck after the rise of the grinding Breach deck, and really the big changes we saw in Modern, all the bannings, the unbannings. We talked about those quite a bit both today and yesterday. Really, the reason there's so many eyes on Modern right now really gave people a lot of reason to be excited about this, even though they got their one rings banned. We can play with Twin again. We can play with Greens and Zenith again. More importantly, we play with Mox Opal. And our champion from yesterday, Grayson Nevitz, said, "Yeah, I mean, we couldn't even get enough Mox Opals in our house, so I decided to play Eldrazi Rample, no problem." Ended up winning the entire event, felling Breach in the finals. Said himself he would have played Breach if he could not have, and I guess that is quite fortunate for him, although did not have quite as deep of a run today, but still had a good finish today. Here's a Psychic Frog on turn 2 for Jake Conan to face down the Tameo. Now Tameo attacking is a little bit more of a cost than it normally has, because you'd like to block the Psychic Frog, I imagine, but sometimes you just need the artifact to turn on your Mox Opal in this Breach deck.
Yeah, I played around the availability issues on Mox Opal by just putting my Lantern deck in a closet when it got banned and not touching it. So now I still got Mox Opals. We did it.
That's the Andrea Maguchi, buy high, never sell. That's a signature move. Used to see that quite a bit when I was still on the Twitter app, the Bird app.
That's great. I like that.
There's a Malevolent Rumble on 2. This is something Doomway called out. Really kind of one of the unsung heroes of this deck, really gluing everything together. Cards in graveyard obviously matter a lot. Being able to find your Breach a lot easier matters. And of course, being 1 mana, thanks to the mana rebuy off the Eldrazi spawn, matters a ton as well for continuing to do things on your turn. Now, we'll see what Fletcher does want to do with this Tameo. Are we going to send it in? No. Looking to block with the Tameo. Yeah, makes sense to me.
Could set up an interesting decision point here for both players, depending on how Jake wants to play it with the Frog. Now, Jake, knowing that he's down a game here, so the entire match in the finals, pretty even, honestly, after we saw Canfer and Ungar pick up quick wins here. But fighting back from the team of Williams, Johnson, and Boyardee, this is all you can ask for in the finals here. And I think we're in line for a pretty good one here to wrap it up, because this is going to be a very nice Dimir game. against Team or Breach. Like these frog choices. Like, what do you do? Do you block? Okay. If you've blocked, do I want to pitch cards to it? How many do I want to pitch to it? What should I be worried about playing around? There's a lot of interesting decisions going on in both players' minds right now.
Interesting. So we block with the spawn. And this is there was a lot of, like you said, those decisions that matter, right? We left Tamio up to block, but that only needs to block if we decide to give it flying. Well, if we don't give it flying, we can block with the spawn, and then that doesn't even open up the line for Jake to be able to discard some cards and kill your Tamio, which is, I think, quite relevant. I think you do want to keep this Tamio around if you have the option to. So really kind of Jake kind of put it in Fletcher's court, and now no decisions for Fletcher anymore, as Fatal Push going to remove the Newsome Tamio from the battlefield. Is that a word? Nuisance, but as an adjective?
Well, it's a last name.
Like
I'm not
a
sure.
noun? Okay, whatever. I don't know. I talk about magic cards, not grammar, so I guess, whatever. Nuisance. Nuisance didn't sound right, so I tried to use like whatever.
You pick up a lot of great words from magic cards, though, and then sometimes you're like, "Wait a minute, that's a real word."
True.
Abstruse
I expand my vocabulary a little bit. Well, let's see what Fletcher wants to do. No Tamio left over, but also Psychic Frog didn't draw any cards.
Well, yeah, Fletcher was able to basically, by throwing away the spawn, right, was able to trade a mana for a card away from Jake. Now, that said, I think he was probably hoping to keep Tamio after doing all of that. So still kind of a difficult spot here. We do look like we've got a decision made, and it's okay, not so bad. We're just going to redeploy Tamio.
Yeah, backup Tamio is a nice one to have here. Still holding on to, looks like, some Moxen in hand, something we've seen a lot of these Breach players do. And Force of Negation to pick up. Again, look at the hand. Both Harbinger of the Seas that are in this deck. No third land. Got to force a Spell Snare and some other stuff. Can't get a look at the two closest to the hand for Jake, but I mean, those are some great tools to work with. Now the decision once again. Are we blocking with Tamio and opening up the ability to discard 2 cards to kill the Tamio? Maybe we have some spells we can cast first. It's Unholy Heat going after the Psychic Frog.
Okay, the decisions begin. Now, there are lots of options for Jake here, and really, this is a big decision point in this game, because if you're Jake, how do you fight against this Unholy Heat? You have a Force of Negation that's getting pulled to the front, but instead, we decide we're just going to let it go. We're not going to worry about just the Psychic Frog. We're not going to go all in on the Delver. We're going to play a longer game here and keep up our interaction against this dangerous combo deck.
Well, I think it's hard to do, right? I think that was a delirious Unholy Heat. I see at least Flame of Anor. I think Malevolent Rumble is a sorcery. And I think, assuming that Glared card there is a land, then we do actually have Delirium. So trying to fight through the Unholy Heat by discarding cards, not really a plan. Your Force Negation didn't really work. So there's not a lot going on for you, but that does really open up a lot for Fletchers. Now we can start attacking with this Tamio. We can get some clues. We can turn on our Moxel, but we can cast our Emery. I mean, that Psychic Frog really was presenting a standoff that is no longer the case, and the Breach deck gets to start doing what the Breach deck does, and that is put 2 Underworld Breaches in the graveyard off an Emery trigger. Not really what you want to see. Saga, 2 Breaches to the yard. Not really a lot of artifacts that are enticing to bring back with Emery. Really want to find your baubles and stuff. Grinding Station even is fine. It's an unsung part of the deck. Just having your Grinding Station in play really makes your Underworld Breaches more or less a kill out of the box. Backup Frog pickup. It's quite nice.
Yeah, this is pretty good.
Still no third land for those Harbinger of the Seas and all the other things. They might be a little late to the party now anyway, but
I thought that was a main phase Unholy Heat. The Instep Unholy Heat means that Jake could not have protected it with the Force anyway. So not a lot you can do with not a lot you can do with the Frog here if that's the case. So another land for Fletcher. Was Fletcher on only 2 cards in hand, though? Because if you're Jake, that's kind of where you're looking here, right? You've got more cards. You don't necessarily have a lot of engines going, but you hope that there's not a big follow-up. Unfortunately, Flame of Honor is exactly that.
Huge.
Yeah.
Not only do we have a wizard, so we could deal 5, draw 2. I mean, that's a disaster. But also, again, I think this is on Instep, right? So we can't even Force Negation. Ugh. Brutal.
Yeah, Flame of Honor, obviously a Lord of the Rings edition to Modern, but one that is picked up more play, I think, as time has gone on. It came out a little bit at the beginning, but even more so now. And it just has a lot of options. And when you do control a wizard and get to choose 2 of the modes of drawing 2, destroying an artifact, dealing 5 to a creature, it really starts to become almost insurmountable as the card that turns the corner for the deck.
And check that out. Flame of Honor, of course, could be up to a 3-for-1. It was a lot more than that. Had to discard 4 cards to keep this this Psychic Frog alive in the face of the 5 damage Flame of Honor. But we did do so, kind of cashing in.
Recognize that was going to be the only chance at this point, right? May as well give it a shot.
And it's so tough having to pitch like all your 3-drops, right? You had to pitch the Harbinger of the Seas, you had to pitch your Abhorrent Aculus, so all your powerful 3-drops, have to go hit the bin, and of course the Spell Snare joined that party as well. We did keep Forest Blue card up, trying not to just die and try to sit behind this massive Psychic Frog as a way to claw back into this game, as now we are very, very far behind on card advantage. Oh, but I think we might have picked up an Otawara there, and that is just brutal. Yeah, that's an Otawara.
The old uninteractable answer, yeah.
Check that out. Jake just cannot catch a break in this matchup. And I mean, Jake's obviously had a great run. He's done a great job on this tournament so far. But really, I think what you're witnessing right now is kind of the reason a lot of people gravitated away from the Dimir decks in this current grinding breach meta game. Is just your cards just don't line up as well as they have previously. And attack with Tamiyo. Gonna exile. Yeah, sure. I'll exile 3 cards to block. Oh, yep. Gonna use the Otawara. So now back to hand goes the Frog.
Got a big discount on the Otawara as well.
Yeah, only 2 mana thanks to the 2 legends in play. Grinding Station, a nice follow-up. Like I said, doesn't really impact the board too much right now, but really makes any Underworld breach in the future kind of just lethal out of the box. Can even sack our Mox Opal and recast it with Emery and just have some mana up if that's the thing we're interested in. Can't get a great look if there's any artifacts that ever hit the graveyard. I don't think so. And thought about force negationing that one, chose not to. Fletcher chooses not to activate. Back over to Jake we go. Found Counterspell. Very late to the party is that one. And I mean, really, the story of this game for Jake has been just not finding a 3rd mana source. And now I don't even think he wants a 3rd mana source anymore.
Frog number 3. No, I think that
well, same Frog number 2. That one got bounced by Otawara.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Shook off all those counters.
The 3rd deployment of the Frog here with all the counters removed, and it's going to be an uphill battle almost no matter what you do, even if Fletcher has nothing. And as we can see, Fletcher has more than nothing.
Well, not that much more. We got a Tamiyo. That's not great.
Yeah, that's not great.
We got a Thassa's Oracle. That's also not great. Oh, one of these lands is Shifting Woodland. Never mind.
Exactly.
We shot Breach, and this is just a kill right now.
Yeah, Shifting Woodland has been a massive addition to these decks. Any deck it goes into, it just finds ways to copy things that win the game. This was a big part of the Nadu decks as well. Yes, becomes a copy of target permanent. That means it can attack if it needs to. It can be a combo if it needs to. And most of the time, it's just a land that makes mana, comes into play on tap. But the upside on Shifting Woodland is just massive.
I mean, we've seen it come up a ton. We saw it come up a ton yesterday. Just an uncounterable way to get an extra Underworld breach. It came up multiple times. I mean, I kind of wonder if we're going to gravitate to playing even more of these things. It's just so important. And like you said, it can make, I mean, if you're short on cards, it can make a grinding station, but more importantly, it can make an Underworld breach uncounterably. So that force negation is not going to work. We already have the grinding station in play. The problem here, maybe we only have 1/0. So if that gets forced negationed and we brick on 1 on the activation, maybe that's bad. But then we can go to combat still, make another clue, untap the grinding station. We get 6 cards to find any 0. Seems pretty easy to do to me.
Yeah, certainly a lot of choices here, and you laid it all out very beautifully, and that's what Fletcher's working through right now in his mind, trying to figure out, okay, how do we not mess this up? My opponent threw 1 million cards into a Frog. I got rid of the Frog. We should be okay here, right? And that's just line it up. You're in the finals. You have a chance to give your team a 1-0 lead, which then would mean your team is just a single game away from winning the title here at the Team Trio's $10,000 event in Chicagoland. So big turn.
I think we hit Mox and Bobble. So yeah, now I think that's everything, because the Mox is fine. That makes blue mana. The other Mox is fine, and you only have 1 force of negation. So yeah, I'm going to start on Emery to use that to recast the Mox Opal. And yeah, you force negation this, but there's still a Mox Amber, it looks like. And if nothing else, that other card is definitely a bobble, so we can just keep going until we find another one.
Right.
And that looks like it to me.
Yeah, force negation that Jake was hoping would provide some amount of interaction. It did, but probably not enough here.
Yeah, so I mean, assuming this is a breach, I don't know what else. What else would it be if it's not a breach? That is a shifting woodland, right? I mean, we tapped 4 mana. Okay, so it can't be. It's literally not possible for it to be a breach. Because otherwise it would be sacrificed right now. So I don't know what it is. That looked like Shifting Woodland Breach. That looked like a kill to me, and now we untapped. So it has to be something else. It looks like there's a counter on it. Maybe it's a Saga? I'd like to get confirmation from the table that is, I think, it has to be like there's a Saga.
It feels to me that is the most likely.
Why would you make a Saga? It doesn't become, it's only still in a turn, right? It doesn't stay a Saga? Am I losing? I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll get updates.
Turn it into a Saga again in the upkeep, and it gets the second counter.
Oh, is that true? Sure.
I have no idea if that's. I'm certainly not an expert on the Temur Breach deck. Certainly not an expert in its deep shifting woodland lines. But there's a breach actually off the top of the deck, so we'll see if that changes things.
Well, can we cast that? We just got Harbinger of the Seized. And we lost our Mox Opal. So Amber,
you're right. Without the extra color,
only makes blue.
Yeah, no.
So
Mox
that
anymore.
breach is uncastable. Maybe chat has some insight. Does chat have any insight? You speak for the chat. Does chat?
I speak for the chat. Happened? Chat is I'm going to say as confused as the rest of us might be about exactly what happened there. But I do think that we're correct on how things are going. And how the cards work. So there's a clue, and it looks
like that Opal?
Mox Opal.
Ooh, Opal was a big pickup. Oh, might have gotten bailed out. We found an extra Opal off of the clue draw. And that is going to trigger Grinding Station, so we can respond here if we want to. Don't know that we do. You can float your red mana, then grind away something, then play your breach, and this is a kill. So even if whatever mysteriousness happened, we have it all rolled up here. And yeah, that's going to be setting the hand. Fletcher Johnson going to win that one 2-0, which means it comes down to our legacy match because it looks like Harrison Camphor picked up win number 3. So it all comes down to this, all the way back to legacy, the way I love.
That's right. And we're deep into it, aren't we? Look at all those cards: Exiled Delvers, Giant Graveyards, a Brazen Borrower on an adventure, a Lotus Petal in play, a Brainstorm on the stack. We've got it all. And I'll tell you what, chat is losing it for Fletcher right now in that win right there. So
it was a clutch draw set. That Mox Opal off the top to bail out for the breach kill is the way we drew it up.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, chat. That's the greatest. That's all you need to know.
The greatest to ever do it was called. Just saying.
The greatest to ever do it. Indeed, as Murktide Regent may be one of the greatest to ever attack, as it comes down as an 8/8. That is a lethal threat for Cliff Boy RD, and if it is allowed to connect, then that will be the victory for Jake Conan's team, Harrison Camphor and Ben Unger. But Cliff's got a lot to work with.
Yeah, Teferi in hand. We'll see what the counter magic situation is, because Teferi bounce would probably be pretty good. It looks like 5 mana available for Cliff with that Lotus Petal. Oh, everyone's in on this. We got
yeah. You think that would be pretty good? You think bouncing the big 8/8? That's a pretty good play.
Now, does this resolve? That's what this comes down to.
Look at the crowd. I guess you can't see. I can see. There's a nice little crowd for me behind the finals here as it is down to the legacy match. I forgot chat can't see everything like I can. I get to see everything.
All right. Fetch for Ben here. Looks like that Pyroblast is going to be on the table.
Yeah. Any kind of follow-ups? I see a Brainstorm. Maybe like Hydroblast stuff going on. Checking the sideboards real quick. I see Force Negations. Consign to Memories. Not really a lot. Spell Pierce would be good. Here's the thrown across the table Pyroblast. Brainstorm in response. First card is Cephalid Illusionist. Second card, Nykermeba. Third card is Ponder. I think we have 3 Cephalid Illusionists in hand. Those
Okay.
are
Well,
not good.
I don't think we'll see. I don't think those cards are stopping this Teferi from getting countered.
I'm inclined to agree with you.
In fact, I'm not sure what we'll have to see if they have an actual answer lined up, because you said it. That is a truly lethal Murktide. Like, this could just end right now.
Right, exactly. And yes, that's going to happen. And now we're pondering. There's the Forcible 1 card deeper.
Always.
So brutal.
Always.
And I think you see the frustration there for Cliff Boyardee finding that Force 1 card too deep from that Brainstorm, a pile of Cephalid Illusions in hand. No real way to get this Narcomoeba in play to
Could
even
they have
chump
pondered
block.
first?
Yeah, and there it is, the handshake. Ben
What a
Unger is going to
game.
win it 2-0, and that's going to be the victory for his team. Still had a days. Still had all these, he says. Don't worry, even if you drew the Force, I had the days.
What a match. We got to watch Legacy to end it all. We started when we came in this afternoon. We said, you know what? We would love to watch some Legacy, and we got to watch Legacy be the final decider for it all here in Chicagoland.
Yeah, I mean, incredible. It's awesome to see start on Legacy. Of course, we got to see some of the standard action. We got to see some of the modern action and asymmetrical matchups across the board, right? No real mirror matches, no clear best deck. I mean, we talked a lot about Breach potentially being the best deck in modern, and it certainly is, but I give people time to adapt. I'm critical of Mox Opal as a Magic card being allowed to exist, but at the same time, it was allowed to exist for a long time, and people still enjoyed Modern quite a bit. Give Modern time to develop. And like you said, there's a lot of eyes on the Modern format. We talked a lot about that before diving into the Modern match, and we'll just see how decks adjust. The Breach deck's a big problem. That much we know. It is very powerful. If it's allowed to exist unimpeded, it is going to continue to be a problem. We'll see if that continues to be the case as we do get our team sitting down here for the final, I believe, final interview here of the entire, I believe, Handhold is their team name. Had to get that pulled up as well. So
there we go.
We'll see if they're here prepared to hold hands here. Congratulations to Team Handhold. I love it. I love it. Living up to your name.
Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, while we were preparing for this event, Harrison was like, man, it's going to be a bummer when we win this event and it doesn't qualify us for champs.
The shot call. That's unreal. Well, so talk to me, of course, as you're preparing for this event, you guys obviously prepared together. We can kind of go down the line. We'll start with you, Harrison. Talk to me about the preparation process, putting you on the standard seat, your deck selection, choosing not to play Grilagro, going with your deck that you did. Talk to me about the process.
Yeah, so I tested a lot for champs last year and was pretty high on domain going into the event. But I knew Pixie had shown on the scene at Atlanta a couple of weeks ago and had a pretty high performance. I've kind of always hated the Grill matchup on domain, despite I think it being an incredibly strong deck. So Pixie has a very good Grill matchup and can play both an aggressive and controlling role depending on the matchup. So I 14-1 on Moto after picking up the deck, and I said, well, I guess I'll just play this because it seems very good. I just tried to find the last couple slots because probably 56 of it is solved, and then just deciding the sideboard cards. But overall, very impressed by the deck, more than I was anticipating.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, a very dominant performance. I got to watch some of your matches as well, and like you said, I mean, it looked like it was quite well set up to battle against some Grill aggro cards. So obviously a great choice, and obviously led to the victory. So big ups there. Let's move on to Modern. Let's talk a little bit about Modern. Obviously the Breach deck, kind of the deck to beat going in. Just no question, just signing up for Breach. What's your process there?
Yeah, so I've been playing Frog since like MH2 or MH3 came out. I played it through Nadu. I'm playing it through Breach now. When we saw the RC data, I was a little bit worried, but it was a week out. I don't really feel like pivoting at that point is going to be super well, and I'm had about a 70% win rate testing on Moto, top 8 a bunch of challenges, beating Breach and NRG quite a lot. Obviously, this didn't go great for me. I lost to Breach a ton today, but my teammates made it through. So Fletcher's obviously very good. Like knows how to play around my counter magic and stuff like that to make it really hard for me. So, I beat most of the other stuff that I faced, and I don't know, it worked out.
Sure did. And a deck near and dear to my heart. I do like the Murktide stuff, and was sad to see it kind of underrepresented. And
Right.
nice to see you kind of pulled through. And of
Good
course,
enough.
that brings us over here to Legacy. Talk to me a little about Legacy. Playing, obviously Delver of Secrets, a known strategy against. But we saw a ton of Breakfast. We saw a ton of other decks. Talk to me about your decision to play Delver in the process there. Oh, here we go.
I haven't had like a ton of time to play Magic lately. I ran it through a league with my friend Ryan, 3-2'd, locked it in. I shout out my friend Kenwan, gave me the entire deck in paper. I own none of it.
Perfect.
And when we got to the hotel yesterday, I was sleeving up the deck. And I had to ask Jake to remind me. I was playing with, I don't know if you saw, I had the full art Ponders, and I couldn't remember what that one did. So I had to ask Jake as a reminder. But, strong teammates. I couldn't be more thankful for everyone here. And, shout out our team Level Up, great support group. Even though I haven't been playing a ton, like, they've just been, like Harrison said, just constantly testing and, getting to reflect on notes of others that are, who I consider to be significantly better than myself has definitely kind of helped me up my game, even though, it's not my hands doing it.
Well, all three of you played great matches through the top 8 that we watched, right? Talk about the top 8 run this evening, the other teams you played against, and how it feels to, get the bragging rights in.
Trophies.
I thought everyone we played was a good competitor. I mean, I have been absolutely blown away just by like the generosity and understanding from everyone that shows up to these tournaments. It's one of the rare tournaments I feel like I can get through the entire weekend and just say all of my opponents were just absolutely delightful to play against. I don't have any specific notes on any of like my top 8 matchups that were super big. Outside of all of my opponents were very friendly, very nice to talk to, easy banter, stuff like that. I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that.
Yeah, similar here. I mean, there were a few times going into matches where like you would turn to me, Ben, and you'd say like, "Oh, watch out, your opponent's pretty good," and because a lot of people. And then we would play, and then
awesome.
usually we would win. And it worked out, but it's definitely a nice crowd at these NRGs. It's some of the most fun I have playing Magic, like period, because of how nice the crowd is. So.
Yeah. Well, it was a great tournament. Great to watch you all take it down. Of course. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, floor is yours. Any shout outs? Anything you want to add?
Oh, shout out Joseph Pio.
Yep.
Just the best tester / guy around.
Yeah.
I played some Delvermeres with him yesterday. Obviously paid off today in the finals. Shout out my finals opponent Cliff Boyardee. Just guy who I've been grinding with since day one, and I think is probably the only reason that I've gotten this good. I don't know, my mom.
We don't see enough mom shout outs in the interviews. I tell you what. There you go. I respect it.
Yeah. That's for me. I don't know. You guys?
Yeah, I want to give Pio a specific shout out for telling me to play Dothy Voidwalker in my deck. I don't know if you saw it pay off in the quarterfinals there, but that's like not very stock. And Pio was like, "You should try Dothy," and it's been really, really nice. So, but yeah,
Awesome.
Also, my mom.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. We've started the mom shout out meta.
How about you, Harrison?
Right.
You got anybody?
I'll also shout out Pio and my mom. He has spent an astronomical amount of time watching me play Magic and telling me what not to do. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's really awesome, guys. I'm really, really easy to cheer for, and congratulations to all of you. Big spring at the early season. Obviously going to set you guys up for the rest of the season. And for now, enjoy your spoils, trophies, money, all the things that come with it. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Awesome. Love the banter there among that team. That has to be a great tournament, a great one to win. Love the shot call there from Harrison Kemp. We're going to win this. It's not going to qualify for champs. You know what you have to do? Just go win the team sealed one at the end of the season. But that is going to do it for our very first event of 2025. So before we let you guys go, I really want to talk about our next event in Madison, Wisconsin. If we can get that slide up, talk a little bit about the 10K Standard Showdown. You mentioned a lot of eyes on Standard, a lot of developments happening with the self-bounce decks and all the things. We'll see exactly what happens with that, and you'll be able to play some high-stakes Standard and potentially join Garrick Alford and the rest of them in battling it out for a spot in the NRG Champs. And, of course, some Pioneer. We didn't get to feature it this weekend. Featured a lot of formats. We're going to have a 5K Pioneer trial on Sunday, that event as well. Mark your calendars, March 15th and 16th. And of course, on the screen as well, brought to you by Ultimate Guard. Got to shout them out one more time. Get your cards, get your sleeves from Ultimate Guard. Show up to our event in Madison, Wisconsin. Take it down. We could be talking to you. You could shout out your mom in the winner's interview. Yeah, check that out. Mark your calendars, and we hope to see you then. And for now, that's going to do it. I've been Drake Sasser. Corbin, I just talked a lot.
All right.
Send us off. Thank you for being here with me.
Yeah, thank you, Drake, for the great work today, as always. Thank you to our behind-the-scenes crew, and thank you to all of you for hanging out with us. Make sure to subscribe to the channel as well, and we will see you at the next NRG. Have a great night.